We're talking the Notre Dame Fighting Irish today on Sharp and the Point. Last season, 14-2 national championship appearance, just fell short overall in the third season for Marcus Freeman. This will be his fourth season, and he's really one of the best young coaches in the country. His growth from a management perspective, both personnel and overall time management, has been nothing short of impressive for him in his growth. Mike Denbrock, in his second season, one heck of an offensive coordinator, got that team going. Defensive coordinator, they change out. Al Golden goes to the Bengals in the NFL, and Chris Ash was he's going to return from a stint in the NFL as a scout and a secondary coach there, and he's going to be taking over. It'll be interesting to see what Ash does with that defense. Quarterback-wise, Riley Leonard was extremely good in his lone season for the Irish with over 2,800 yards passing, 21 touchdowns. He took care of the football extremely well from a passing standpoint, but what deficiencies he had in the passing game, he more than made up for with his legs, gaining over 900 yards and 17 touchdowns on the ground. He was an automatic first down in short yardage situations. Now with Leonard departing, though, and so does his backup, Steve Angeli, who goes to Syracuse, he kind of saw the writing on the wall that the kids behind him had passed him by in the spring. Moving on, though. And then for all intents and purposes, it's still a battle between C.J. Carr and Kenny Minchey for the top spot. Each would be a fine choice, as they should not be asked to do too much given how good the run game is going to be. Carr is really the prohibitive favorite, and he's probably in the lead spot right out the gate. He should be given his pedigree. Football runs through his veins, as you know that broadcast every week is going to mention that he's the grandson of legendary Michigan coach Lloyd Carr. It's kind of going to get tiring, like the Matt Stafford, Clayton Kershaw bit. He's much more than a cerebral player on the field, though, with great mechanics and accuracy. Carr's a classic pocket passer who has decent athleticism, but it's nowhere near what Leonard possessed. He's going to pick up a little bit of yardage, but he's not a runner at all. Minchey, though, he's much more like Leonard. He's going to take any chance he can get to show off his athleticism with his legs. He possesses a really big arm, probably the biggest arm on the team. He just struggles in what Carr excels in, which is consistency and accuracy in making the right plays. With all the pieces around them, the question really is, do you want that big play capability of Minchey, which can go both ways and positive or negative, or do you want the consistency of Carr? I'd expect them to opt for the Carr option, as the weapons surrounding him are good enough that they do not need the weapon of Minchey to carry the offense. Running back wise, there's a strong argument to be made that this is the best room in college football. The top three all return, with Jeremiah Love, Jadarian Price, and Aeneas Williams all coming back. Love to me is a legitimate Heisman contender. If you watch the Heisman long shots, he's on it as one of the top bets there. If things break right for him, coming off of an 1,100 yard rushing 17 touchdown season, he scored in almost every game. With his late season injury clearly hampering him down the stretch, he still managed to average nearly 7 yards a carry for the season. I'd like to see Love get a little bit more work, but the talent behind him is going to ensure that they spread it out, especially with the health concerns we saw at the end of last year. They're going to want to keep him on the field and healthy for the whole year, and that's going to lead to more production for the guys behind him. Price really is going to be a top option for almost all teams across college football if he was there. He's a luxury number 2 back here, though. He may not quite be the pass catcher that Love or Williams is, but he's every bit of the explosive runner. He comes off of a 750-yard, 7-touchdown season. I'd expect him to get more work to make up for the loss of Leonard's legs and manage to keep Jeremiah Love healthy for the entire year. Aeneas Williams is the one who stands to gain the most work for me. He really came on strong in the college football playoff, and I just can't get out of my head how dynamic he was against Penn State out of the backfield. He had 2 carries for 17 yards, not much to write home about, but those 5 catches for 66 yards showcased his all-around talent, and I really think he stands to build upon that this year. With the potential of a less mobile quarterback back there, if you put Carr back there, you could see everyone's carries go up. for this room. Pass catcher wise, the losses of Bo Collins, Chris Mitchell, Jaden Thomas, and Mitchell Evans are really non-factors for me, even though they were all key contributors. They were all highly thought of and talked about, but they never quite lived up to the production and the talk that they just never justified that whatsoever. Malachi Fields comes in from Virginia. He's going to be the unquestioned number one for me as someone who has that prototypical X build at 6'4", 223. He's got a ton of experience, and he was able to produce in a bad situation last year at Virginia. His 800-yard, 5-touchdown season was impressive when you consider who he was catching passes from, who he was facing, and the talent around him overall, causing him to be constantly double-teamed. Fields did miss the spring due to graduating from Virginia. I think he could be the best wide receiver for the Irish since Chase Claypool was lined up out there. Next up, Jaden Greathouse. He's the one known guy returning at wide receiver, and he finished the season strong, giving reason for many to believe he could work his way into being the top target. I'm just not one of those. He has certainly cemented his starting role, though, in the slot after going 7-105-1 against Penn State, and then following it up with 6-128-2 against Ohio State in that championship game. I think he plays a close second fiddle to Fields with the chance to beat him in catches while moving all around the field to gain matchup advantages. The expectation would be that Jordan Faison sees the most time at the other outside spot, but I would not be surprised if Will Pauling, who they brought in from Wisconsin, overtakes him. Either way, this spot is at best the third or fourth in the pecking order on targets tree. Pauling had a down year last year, mostly due to quarterback play. Braden Locke was abysmal, but he was good the year before. Now, the question is was that due to Phil Longo's system, which emphasized the slot wide receiver, which that's where he lined up for them. For now, though, I would say the most talented lineup to put out on the field is Fields, Greathouse, and Pauling, because they can intermix Greathouse and Pauling between an outside and a slot role. Eli Raridan at tight end, he took a huge step forward last season and into the spring. He's a quality all-around player and most likely to be fourth on the team in targets, but it would not shock me if he ended up surpassing that Pauling Faison spot as third. Offensive line-wise, this unit played extremely well a year ago, all things considered. They entered the season with little experience and depth, and the depth was tested as injuries took their toll on them. Experience depth is again a question due to portal losses of Pat Coogan, Rocco Spindler, and Sam Pendleton, but at least now the starters have a good bit of experience and the depth is all blue-chip recruits. Anthony Knapp, Billy Schroth, Ashton Craig, Charles Jagasaw, who was probably the story of the year last year with him going down early in the season, coming back in the playoff, and then Emil Wagner should be the starters. I think Knapp is under fire from Guerby Lambert for that tackle spot, but we'll have to wait and see. It's a ton of talent up there, though. Defensive line-wise, losses of Riley Mills and Howard Cross are going to be huge as they remove a ton of push up the middle where they combined for 12 sacks last year. That's a tough spot because those, you don't typically see a ton of teams with that much push in that middle of the field. The line is still going to be good depending upon health. Boubacar Traore and Jordan Botello, they're currently healthy. They need to stay that way, though, as they provide a presence off the edge after they were injured last year. Combining them with Bryce Young and Joshua Burnham on the other side gives a ton of upside and versatility to rotate fresh bodies to get after the quarterback. Up the middle with where they're trying to replace Miles and Cross, they have a deep rotation. It's not as high end, it's just deep. Gabriel Rubio, he's going to man the nose after playing mostly 3 technique last year. And then they brought in Jared Dawson from Louisville to give Rubio a breather. I think that's your rotation at that nose spot. The 3 tech is going to be manned by Jason Onye with Donovan Hennish rotating in. Hennish is going to be an interesting guy at that spot because his pass rush upside could really be unlocked there after moving out from a defensive end role into that 3 technique. Linebacker-wise, they lose the leader in the room and Jack Kaiser to the NFL, but they return the rest of a deep rotation they used a year ago. Drake Bowen is going to return to his spot as the Mike, with Kingston Viliamu Asa likely to play a ton of snaps as well. Jalen Sneed, Jaden Osbury will again play prominent roles as interchangeable pieces that can move all over the field, giving the ability to disguise looks. You routinely saw those guys flipping sides, playing weak, playing strong. They're versatile players that are useful. The player really to keep an eye on for me is going to be freshman Madden Ferramo. He could very well work his way into the rotation if he continues to progress. The secondary, man. Xavier Watts and Benjamin Morrison, you could argue that they are bigger losses maybe than Miles and Cross in the middle. They were a top-notch unit from last year in that secondary. More depth is going to depart as well, but Watts really was the heart and soul of the defense, flying around like a madman, making huge plays on the ball. We saw him routinely matched up, just dominating teams. It was impressive to watch. Leonard Moore and Christian Gray are going to operate out of those corner spots with Adon Schuler, a lock for a safety position, but otherwise there's a ton of battles going on for that nickel and the other safety role. Moore really emerged last year as a top-tier corner, and I think he builds on it and helps negate the loss of Morrison. Luke Talich and a Virginia Tech transfer, Jalen Stroman, they are battling for that open safety spot. Stroman has a good bit of experience and should get every opportunity to take that role, but it would not shock me to see Talich come out on top. At nickel, Alabama transfer Devonta Smith should get the first crack, but Carson Hobbs is waiting in the wings. He should be the primary backup at both the nickel and either of the corner spots whenever they need to leave the field. Hobbs is going to play a lot this season regardless of where, but he's definitely the top guy that if anybody from those three spots comes out, he's going in and he's going to get some PT. He will be a starter soon. Looking at the schedule and outlook for this year, Carr needs to survive the early portion of this schedule. He should not need to go out and be the reason they win games, but they need him to not be the reason they lose either. The running backs are the stars of the show. They should be with the talent, while Carr just needs to complement those guys. The weapons on the outside are much improved, in my opinion, from last year, at least providing a threat of a pass game. And the offense could be improved over the quality one from a year ago, even with all that Leonard provided. Defensive-wise, Kaiser and Watts, they covered any issues instantly on defense, and others are now going to need to step in to cover those roles. The depth of the defense is absolutely staggering, though. Ash is going to have a ton of toys to play with, and he will just hope to maintain that standard. The depth on the interior line is the biggest question that we need to see answered. Starting out this schedule, at Miami, I'm going to say it's a win. I do not believe in Carson Beck. I do not believe he's a leader of men. I don't think Miami is improved off of last season. I think they're marginally worse. I will lean win there, but that is a tough game, specifically at Miami, Catholics versus convicts to start the year. Texas A&M, that's a tough test because A&M's a good team, but again, Marcel Reed's not dangerous enough for me against this defense. I, again, lean win. Purdue, easy win. At Arkansas, this is the trap game, right? It's the game everybody's going to look past. It's not necessarily going to look past them like Northern Illinois was a year ago. But I'll lean win, but that place is going to be pumped up. It's pre-hunting season. Early in the year, they have big crowds. They're going to be jazzed up for the Irish to come to town. Boise State, win. They're going to be marginally worse because of the loss of Genty, but they'll still be a quality test there. NC State, win. They're improved, but still not good enough for this team. USC, this is the last test on the schedule. Them playing at Notre Dame provides less of a threat. They were in that game a year ago. They managed to move the ball very well, and it was the pick sixes that really turned that game around, or gave that room, right, and made it so that Notre Dame was easily in control all the way. That's a dangerous team, but I would say it's a win because they have just absolutely dominated USC when they've had to play at Notre Dame for a number of years at this point. At Boston College, win. Navy, win. I think they're going to put up a better fight than they did a year ago. Still a good team. They returned a ton. It's just those types of teams have struggled historically with Notre Dame, just with the talent level in the trenches. At Pittsburgh, they're a dangerous team, but I would still say it's a win. Syracuse, win. They're not as good as they were a year ago. At Stanford, that might as well be a bye week. The schedule really sets up to make a strong push late if they can survive the early part of the year. It would not shock me if they dropped 1 or 2 games during this schedule, but everything is really there for them to run the table. They're going to be in the playoff with a chance, if the right guys develop, to be a serious title contender again.